You're listening to Civic Media. You can tune into any of our live shows on any radio station across the state with the Civic Media app. Find us in your phone's app store and listen anytime, anywhere.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Hey, good morning. It is 8:06. It's nice to have you here. Today I'm up north in Oshkosh, live from Oshkosh at our Civic Media station, WISS, and I thank them again for their hospitality, for the coffee, for the donuts, for the abundant sunshine, which Parker Olson produces our show here, and he does so from an interior room in Madison's Studio A2, compared to here in Oshkosh, where, I don't know if you caught it earlier.
I did.
The sun, there's a certain point where the sun comes over a tree here across the street, Main Street here in Oshkosh, and doesn't quite get out of the view of the window. And for that time, I am a deity or angelic, or being fried to death by a magnifying glass like an ant on the sidewalk, and finally was able to swing the curtain over.
You were impressively bright.
I was. Yes. Nobody's going to accuse me of that any other time except when that happens.
Those teeth were shiny.
But it is a lovely day here. It's a lovely studio, and we thank again our Civic Media friends for their hospitality as we get around. You know, we're back here in the Oshkosh and Green Bay areas on weekday mornings, and we are very pleased to be so. Hope we're doing a good job for you. We've been talking a lot about the Oshkosh area. We talked to the Winnebago County Executive. We talked to the Vice Chancellor and Provost at UW Oshkosh, and we're going to talk to a Fox Valley State Representative, Lee Snodgrass, in just a moment. First, a reminder that meteorologist Brittany Merlot is taking the day off to enjoy life at the EAA Air Venture. We saw her enjoying it, roughing it in that tent. I'll tell you, it was probably not her most comfortable night last night as I was coming up here early this morning from Beaver Dam. And again, why Beaver Dam? Because it was the closest place to find a hotel room to get here. But as I was driving up, super humid, super foggy, and I hope that they were able to enjoy the night as best they could before another day here at EAA Air Venture. But even without Brittany here, Rob writes in, good morning from Tigerton. Cloudy skies, 56 or 66 degrees. He said at the time that it was very foggy. He has since updated that to say the fog has lifted. Mowed a few lawns in the Tigerton area, got done with the final yard, and then a downpour hit. And let's see, he got down to the Zion Lutheran Church where his parents got married. He's got to mow areas in the rural Tigerton today after all the fog burns off. He did give an update to say the fog is lifted in Tigerton, but it's still cloudy and 67 degrees. Tigerton had just over a half inch of rain yesterday, Tigerton being 65 miles north of Oshkosh. We appreciate the directional on that, Rob. Thank you very much. So again, Brittany will be back on Monday, but you get updates on your weather forecast throughout the course of the day on the Civic Media Radio Network. And if you haven't heard it yet, it is Free Ticket Friday. So coming up in just a little bit, I will give you the keyword for this morning. Text that in through the Civic Media app. You'll be in the running for Brewers tickets for next Wednesday afternoon's game between the Brewers and the Cubs. So stick around for that. State Representative Lee Snodgrass of Appleton joins us now to talk a bit about issues that she's working on in the Fox Valley and in Madison. Lee, good morning. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Pat. Nice to be here.
It's so nice to see you again. And of course, we've got the news of the day to start off with. Governor Evers announcing yesterday that he will not be seeking a third term in 2026. Opens up a wide primary from both parties for governor. But let's stick with the governor's announcement first and your reaction to Governor Evers saying that he will not be seeking that third term.
I think the governor is doing what's right for him and his family right now, and I completely support that. I think Tony Evers is going to go down as a governor who prevented a lot of horrible things from happening, and I had a front row seat to that. Never was there a more powerful veto pen, And I'm excited about what's coming up in terms of new candidates, new opportunities to put another Democrat in the governor's office.
Well, especially when you consider not just the gubernatorial primary that's coming up in August of next year, but the lieutenant governor primary. That's an entirely separate beast. You don't run as a running mate until after the primary when you see who won the lieutenant governor primary. You could see wide open races if Josh Kaul or Sarah Godlewski decide to run for Attorney General or Secretary of State, if those become open seats. And of course, a whole lot of legislative seats are going to be out there as well. You've been county chair of the Outagamie County Democratic Party, so you have seen your share of primaries.
I have.
so I want your thoughts on primaries, because there are those who work so hard to have them not happen and see them as inherently bad, that they suck up resources and they can lead to party divisions. But I don't think that that's always the case. And I think given that we may see a lot of primaries next year, I think we need to, have an open mind about, some primaries might be divisive, but other primaries are healthy.
I think we did a pretty good job last time. I remind people that Governor Evers was one of, I think, a dozen candidates that were running. And, I remember, because I was county party chair, everybody had their favorite, and it stayed ultimately pretty positive. Towards the end there were a few barbs, which does tend to happen. But in the end, I think all of the candidates sort of flexed their muscles a little bit, were able to articulate their points better for people, and that's great for voters. So I actually think primaries make people stronger. I understand the arguments. I've been part of a primary myself. When I ran for state senate in 2018, I had a primary candidate. It can be a little annoying. It can be harder for fundraising, but ultimately you come out a stronger candidate and better able to articulate your message to voters.
Well, and you're going to want that because the elections next year were going to be pivotal anyway. Democrats were already looking at the possibility of a trifecta now with fair or fairer maps of winning control of the assembly and or the Senate and holding on to the governor's office. So a primary might only help those matters. So how do you talk about the stakes of 2026 when you're talking to voters about what they could see after 2026, depending on how the voting goes, how much differently or perhaps how much better things could be in Wisconsin?
Well, I mean, we're kind of following on the heels of what Minnesota did. We're really going for that trifecta. We have a real opportunity in the Senate and in the Assembly. A little harder for us in the Assembly, but we're not afraid of that hard work. And then, of course, holding on to the governor's office. So this is, we say it every time, this is the most important election in Wisconsin. But unfortunately, we live in a state where every election has really, really high stakes consequences. And this is certainly one of them. We have to hold on to the governor's office if we're going to go for a legislative majority. The most tragic thing really would be having that legislative majority and not being able to get anything done. The Republicans have sort of fought against that a little bit with Governor Evers. And like I mentioned before, he was the only person really keeping some horrible legislation that was easily passed from becoming law in the state of Wisconsin.
We're talking to State Representative Lee Snodgrass of Appleton. And of course, all this news coming literally days after the state budget debate was settled and the state budget was signed. There was this agreement between Governor Evers and legislative Republicans. We have certainly covered it at length, both the good and the bad. And, in each case, you've had people explaining, what ultimately tipped the scales for them to say, okay, I can support this, or nope, I just can't support it. You came down as a no vote, and talk about what led you to that point.
For me, the no vote was really easy. I have some kind of deal breakers as a politician and representing my district. One of them is making sure that we have public education in a really strong place and not having an increase in general aid. When I talked to my superintendent and I said, hey, is this special education reimbursement going to be enough? Is this going to help you? We're still going to have to go to referendum. And we really need to make sure that we have that general aid. The other one was childcare. I spent the entire last summer talking to childcare providers, both in-home and group center childcare providers. And while it was a little bit better than it was going to be, there was going to be nothing in the budget. So I am very appreciative of the governor and Senator Hasselbein for their negotiation. The fact of the matter is that's going to end in a year. We're going to be right back where we started from. And that also comes with some really bad policy strings attached. we're going to increase ratios, and we're going to have, young people who may not be ready for the job able to be certified as childcare teachers.
So where do we go from here? The state budget's done. There's still a session to be held through the fall and into early spring of next year, theoretically, depending on when Republicans want to go home and start campaigning. But there are still plenty of bills out there, plenty of work to be done. What are some of your priorities post-budget?
I think this September, you're going to see a lot from our office and some other offices on the other side of the aisle in regards to election bills. Voter access, making sure people who are living with a disability have better access to voting, making sure that we sort of work with our clerks. I've had a pretty good working relationship with Representative Scott Krug. We're going to continue to try to find some common ground together on really strengthening Wisconsin's election process.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that there's the potential for bipartisanship in that. How do I put this? I mean, I'm glad you're doing it.
Just be honest. Do it.
I'm glad you're putting it out there, because a record has to be made of what we can do. But I mean, are you doing this thinking that you're going to be able to force a vote and get these to pass, or at least just put the contrast out there of what we could have in Wisconsin to make elections better?
Legislating in the minority in Wisconsin is a challenge because almost everything that we introduce doesn't even get a hearing and get out of committee for a vote, much less to the floor. We do have to continue to find those pathways. People put us here to put our ideas out there and to have solutions. And, soon enough, we're going to be in the majority, and we want to have that record of legislation that's ready to go. This is part of it. There are, though, in the space of democracy, I will say, some lanes where we can find agreement. And it's very rare. We still disagree and argue, but I think you'll see that there will actually be some bipartisan bills going into that committee and coming out onto the floor.
I think that was part of my hesitancy, was to avoid expressing the frustration, and yet thankfully you went ahead and did it, that there are a lot of Democratic bills that do not even get the courtesy of a public hearing. And folks going, oh, it's always like that. No, it most definitely was not. This is a pretty recent development, within the past decade of Democrats not getting bills, even a public hearing, unless you can find some kind of a bipartisan co-authorship on there. So I mean, you're already starting to put some cracks in the barrier that used to be there for the longest time. I'm sure you feel that has something to do with the working relationships you're starting to develop, having been there for a few years now.
Yeah, I mean, I was part of the COVID class. So when I came in, we were already isolated, and part of being effective in politics is building those relationships. So I feel like I was behind the eight ball, my class was, but you do start to, as horrible as the headlines are, we have to work together as colleagues, and we do start to see the human side of one another. And I know on certain issues, where I can find some common ground. Representative Elijah Benke was on my pollinator bills. That's the first time a Republican has been an author on those bills with me. He's an organic farmer. These are things that matter to him. Scott Krug has always been somebody who cares about local government and their clerks. That's a common area where he and I can find. So I might disagree with them on 98% of other things, but I do look for those pathways where we can find some bipartisan work to do.
And honestly, if you can't be bipartisan about pollinators, seriously, I thought you found such an opening for some real conversations about things that are good for everybody and for our natural resources and beyond. Lee Snodgrass, State Representative from the Appleton area. It is always such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Yeah, have fun in Oshkosh. Thanks for coming up.
Enjoying it very much. Have a great weekend.
Take care.
All right. A local break is next for some of you. And then coming up in our next half hour, we will be talking to Mike Clemens. We'll be doing some sports. Here's a guy happy to have one foot in the Brewers having a great season and Packers training camp as well. All that ahead here on the Civic Media Radio Network.
You're listening to Civic Media. Stay up to date on the latest news and information for your local community and Wisconsin by signing up for our free email newsletter. Visit civicmedia.us/email to get started.
Well, sure, we got you covered for Free Ticket Friday. You could win 4 tickets to see the Brewers Cubs next Wednesday afternoon. Use that Civic Media app. Use the text feature on one of the stations where you're hearing this lovely program, and text us the word brew. That's this morning's keyword, BREW. You've got to text it before 9 o'clock, before the end of the show. And then there will be other opportunities throughout the course of the day, different shows, different keywords. Text those in too. Every one of those texts is an entry in a statewide drawing for those 4 club-level tickets to see the Brewers Cubs next Wednesday afternoon. So enter if you can go. Enter if you can get the tickets electronically and use them on your phone. Text us brew before the end of the hour. Our story on our website, upnorthnewswi.com, that I posted there late yesterday about the governor's decision reads, in a love letter to Wisconsin, Tony Evers explains why he won't run for governor again. He said that he was confident that he would win a 3rd term if he sought it, but has decided to retire after 50 years in service. He wrote, here's the truth, Wisconsin. The only thing I love more than being your governor is being a husband, a dad, and a grandpa. Marrying Kathy is the greatest accomplishment of my life because it gave me a lifetime with her, 3 amazing kids, and 9 incredible grandkids. For 5 decades, my family has sacrificed to give me the gift of service. They're my world, and I owe it to them to focus on doing all the things we enjoy and love doing together. It's why, Wisconsin, I will not be running for a 3rd term. As I was on my way here to Oshkosh, it's when we got word that the governor had made that announcement, and I already had a previously scheduled interview with Senator Tammy Baldwin. And so minutes later, I was here at the studios of WISS and all set up and talking to Tammy Baldwin about some legislation she's working on to help make sure that water supplies in rural Wisconsin remain clean. We're going to hear all about that come Monday. Naturally, I first had to ask her about the announcement about Governor Tony Evers, and here's what she had to say.
As a career educator turned governor, working with him to support public education has been such a joy. I'm certainly going to miss him, but I'm certainly going to look forward to the year and a half that we still have to work together on behalf of the people of the state. I'm jazzed as hell for him to get the next chapter in his life.
His statement mentioned, he titled it "A Love Letter to Wisconsin," a love letter to Kathy and his family and to Wisconsin, and really hits on notions of public service, which for all of the bare knuckle politics that goes on in this day and age, it seems like a nice reminder that the whole reason you're supposed to be doing what you're doing, him, you, others, is about service.
Exactly. And that's really, a reflection of his life. I talked to him earlier today, and he was reflecting on nearly 50 years in public service, whether that was as a teacher, a principal, superintendent of public instruction, or governor, a servant of the people. And he embodies that.
Senator, I have to ask, I have to do my due diligence. Is that a post that you might be interested in considering next year?
No, I know that we have a very well qualified group of folks who I'm sure are eyeing the possibility of running for governor, and I look forward to that. But I'm focused on a very important job I have here in Washington, D.C., especially in these times where our very democracy is on the line. And I am very honored to be in this fight, and that Wisconsinites entrusted me with being their voice in Washington.
Senator Tammy Baldwin there. And then, of course, since the news, Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez has now announced that she will run for governor. Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley said he is preparing to announce a run for governor. And there will be others that I'm sure we'll be tracking, I would say, over the next days and weeks. But I think days might just be the best way to put it. People are going to want to get into this race pretty early, get their name ID up, start raising money, because there really is no presumptive front runner. When it was a wide open field back in 2018, Tony Evers was the one everybody was looking at. He was state superintendent at the time. And people said, well, if he gets in, he'll probably be the nominee. But he gave no indication. He was playing it coy for the longest time, and at that point, about a dozen candidates got in the race before before Tony Evers said that he wanted to run for governor. This time around, no real presumptive favorite. Some names that you know, some names you don't know are going to be running here. Parker Olson is our producer in Madison Studio A2, and it's time to play. Oh, Parker is so young. That's the name for our new game here. So,
figure out how young Parker is based off of this thing that Pat's about to tell him.
Based off this thing called "Who Died This Week." So here we go. Okay,
this is cheerful.
Yeah, I know, but it's been a week. Five different names to share with you. The most recent, Hulk Hogan, professional wrestler. Yeah. You're familiar?
I'm familiar. I've never been a WWE guy, but yes, I'm familiar.
Yeah, I mean, and you would consider him one of the founding fathers of modern day wrestling. And let's just say his life was complicated, and leave it at that. But in his early years, when he was seen as one of the first really big deals of modern professional wrestling, he really built up a following. Malcolm Jamal Warner, of course, earlier this week. You knew the name, but I'm guessing you weren't a Cosby Show watcher. That was a little before your time.
Didn't even know the name.
Didn't even know the name.
No.
Okay, great. Not depressed at all. Not even going to ask about Connie Francis then, who was the biggest deal of the time when she was singing in the 1950s and 60s. Ozzy Osbourne, we discussed him.
Yeah,
you got that,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then most recently from yesterday, trumpet player Chuck Mangione.
No.
Okay. Feels So Good. Was his signature tune. Feels so good to feel this old. Thank you, Parker, for playing along with us.
To guess how old I am, please hit that text line. Put in that number. How old is Parker?
No. Just text us Brew for those brewery tickets. Mike Clemens is along with Sports Next year up north. Does your radio show come with a costume change? This one does, because it's
I was wondering. I wasn't sure if you did change.
It is Free Ticket Friday. We're giving away tickets to a Brewers game. The Brewers are playing this afternoon. One of the people on this show is going to the game right after this, making his way to Milwaukee. And so the Brewers Hawaiian shirt that was given to me for my birthday a couple of weeks back by one of my daughters has been donned and is ready to head down and see the game today. Although we're kind of matchy. We got the light blue shirts. Yours have what are those, limes or kiwis or something on there?
It's up for debate. I believe lime or kiwi is the running theory.
Okay.
We're not sure.
Okay.
I think I'm on Team Kiwi.
Team Kiwi. Okay. Well, yeah. I'm Team Brewers over here and ready to head down to American Family Field for what's going to be a wonderful day, a wonderful game, and we're going to get to that. But we've also had Packer training camp open up, and so Mike Clemens is here with all that and more to help kick us off into the weekend. Mike, hello. How are you?
Hi, Pat. Yeah, I'm calling you from training camp. I'll be here through Labor Day weekend. I will shoot down and catch a couple Brewer games. I can't do this one. As you say, that Brewers game today, the first pitch is at 3:10, and then they're having this big anniversary today. That's a great game to go to today. You know, you got the Brewers opening a series against the Marlins, and then after that, they have brought back over 25 players to represent each year that they're celebrating the 25th anniversary of opening Miller Park. Can you believe the ballpark's that old already?
No.
Now, of course, it's American Family Field with its wonderful retractable dome, because in the spring, when it's raining and it's like, well, gee, do I go to the ballpark to cover the game? Yeah, the game is on every day. You know, it's on every day. It's a beautiful thing. There aren't those costly rain delays. And so it'll be Freddie Peralta on the mound for the Brewers. The Brewers were in first place in not only in their division, best record in baseball, right? 61 wins.
Yeah.
And after the game, then they're going to have this home run derby, and they brought back guys like, Ryan Braun and Prince Fielder and Carlos Gomez, Corey Hart, all these fan favorites, Jeff Jenkins. And Carlos Gomez and Brawny will be team captains, and they will pick, hitters for their team and have a little home run derby after the game today. So that's going to be a great one to watch.
It really is, and I have to say it'll be kind of cleansing for me in this way. One of the best displays of hitting I'd ever seen was back when Mark McGwire was at his peak, and he was coming to the Metrodome to play the Twins, and I made sure to get there extra early for BP. And watching Mark McGwire launch these things in BP at the time, not knowing what we know now, was just wonderful to watch as a baseball fan. And then, of course, later in hindsight, it feels so tainted that I tell you, today's home run derby is going to be kind of a cleansing for me after what I had to see there, more than 2 decades ago.
The Cardinals came to town during that home run derby, if you will, between him and Sammy Sosa. And one of the guys at the station said, "Hey, you want to go?" And I had other plans that I was going to cover something else. I can't remember what. And he said he had a credential. Okay, yeah, let's go. And we go down and we see Mark McGwire hit I think it was 61 or 62. It was just, and I have not, I got to see Hank Aaron as a kid. I have not seen anybody launch a ball that had this vertical trajectory immediately off the bat like that.
No.
The way he was that year. It just leapt off the bat and went way high. By the time Uger could have called a get up, get out of here, gone within a second of that thing. And then keeps on creeping and creeping and creeping, and then goes deep back into the bleacher seats at County Stadium. It was amazing to watch, no question.
Yeah. Tony writes on YouTube, where is Richie Sexson, one of the tallest baseball players I've ever seen? 45 homers in 01 and 03. So clearly, I think, I don't know if he's part of this later today, but when people see those 25 or more Brewers marking 25 years at this particular ballpark, there's going to be a lot of time travel today as people like we just did go back and have favorite memories of favorite players.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Wasn't he like 6'7"? He's pretty big. Of course, you got Aaron Judge now these days.
Yes, I know. And
he causes an eclipse when he gets into the batter's box.
And he can launch him. He too is fun to watch as long as you're not playing against him at the time. So let's get to training camp. You're there. You've got the practices that are open to the public some days. It just has an aura. Everybody likes to talk about, the kids and the bikes and everything. But it just is an experience for the players, for the spectators, for the community.
Right. And, these players are juiced for it too, because, they are football players. This is what they do in life. They've worked very hard to get to this point. They heal from the wounds from the off season. Then they go back after about a month or two off, and they've been working out to get to this moment. And by the way, they have to re-earn their job. There's a competition going on. So for the first 3 or 4 days under the, current CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, the coaches don't throw the pads on right away in these guys. They've got to have like 3-4 practices in helmets and shorts. And so we started on Wednesday at 10:30. The practices are open every day at 10:30 to the public. They're going to go by fast. 20 years ago, when Mike Sherman was the head coach, when we still had two-a-days before those, union agreements with the players, he had over 50 practices. And I'm like trying to remember with my buddies, like, how did we cover 50? Because right now there's only 11 of these things before they get through the 3 preseason games. It's a 17-game season, though, and that's kind of the changes. There are some more practices that I get to see, but that won't necessarily be open to the fans. But so I asked LaFleur about this. So what do you accomplish with these practices without the pads before you put them on next week? And he said, particularly with the first-year players, he goes, I don't want you touching my quarterback, and I don't want you putting my running back on the ground, okay? Those are the 2 rules. And he said, you see, the difference is, we could only go up to 75% speed even through the mini camp in June. So now we're going 100%, right? Mm-hmm. So when they're doing 11 on 11, it's 100% in terms of speed, but, guys can get twisted and tangled up and end up on the ground. He doesn't want that, because even when we put the pads on, you don't want to do that, because you don't want guys getting hurt in training camp. So those are some of the techniques that they're trying to learn this week. Now, one of the biggest stories we're watching is center Elton Jenkins, who got moved from left guard to center in the offseason. They signed Aaron Banks from the 49ers for $77 million for a guard.
Yikes.
And Elton, who was a veteran player, he got a deal just a couple of years ago at 68. And his agent called Russ Ball at the team and said, "Yeah, I'd like to inform you that our guy's going to get a raise if that's what the market is now." And so they're still in the middle of negotiating that contract, but we're waiting for that to be resolved. Meanwhile, Elton has a sore back, and we've been seeing him on the sidelines working out with a trainer.
How's the mood of the team overall? I mean, you're coming off a loss to the Eagles in the playoffs. At what point has it already become ancient history, or do you actually keep that memory fresh to provide some motivation as you get set to start a new season?
Yeah, Pat, I came into this season looking at this like I am not going to accept rah-rah stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to accept the window of opportunity. There's to these guys, to Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur, you have to try and win a Super Bowl every year. There's no window of opportunity. It's like you have to win now and keep winning in order to keep your job. So with that in mind, I'm thinking, okay, if you're LaFleur and you're driving up to the stadium now and you're going to start your seventh season, what's left? I mean, you've gone to the playoffs year after year. You've transitioned to a new quarterback after a Hall of Famer with now Jordan Love. And to me, it's just like we got to be better at winning in games. If you fall behind, solving the Rubik's Cube in game, or maybe there's something in the game planning. Like the game planning of a Bill Belichick or the in-game adjustments of a Tom Brady. How can we get to that next level to turn some of these games around? And I talked to Love about this. I said, hey, this you went 1-5 in the division last year. The one thing, is this an advantage that the Vikings are going to go with a new quarterback, the Lions are going to have to go with two new coordinators, and the Bears have a whole new coaching staff? He says, yeah. I says, I can just take last year's playbook and take it to the next step. So that saves me a lot of time. I'm going to ask LaFleur about that. But there's no question. The thing that really comes through is there's just another level of seriousness. It's not just guys hanging out and playing for each other. They are being more, in the third or fourth year, more serious about their business. And you see them running to coaches and getting things, cleared up if maybe something didn't go just quite right on the last play. And you got Josh Jacobs, the running back, and Xavier McKinney, the safety, the two free agents that came in and took over that locker room last year as leaders, that when they lost that game in Philadelphia, they looked around and told them all, this ain't it. This is not what we're here for. You guys fell short, and this isn't going to happen again. And so there clearly feels like, I don't want to be cliche, a sense of urgency with all these players, and especially from LaFleur as well.
I like hearing that personally because, and I'm mixing apples and oranges, but with the Milwaukee Bucks, I think a lot of people got the impression there wasn't that urgency. It's like, we're good, but we didn't get there, but we'll come back next year. And for the Packers, it's like, we're not letting this momentum get away from us. How is wide receiver Matthew Golden looking so far? And while you're commenting on him as well, up on YouTube, Tony asks about Rashawn Gary as well. Is he looking healthier? So what can you tell us about a couple of the personnel?
I'll comment on Rashawn when I see the guys in pads. That's where you can do that.
Yeah.
But in terms of the first-round pick in Matthew Golden, number 22, on the second day of practice, yesterday at practice, and 11-11, there's Jordan Love in the pocket, and he starts throwing to 22 over the middle. A little slant pass, 7 yards at an angle over the middle, and he hits Matthew Golden over the middle. Now he turns and looks up. He's got three guys around him, a corner, a nickel, and a safety. He does one juke move, and he's gone. I mean, it just explodes past these dudes. And he did that a couple of times. And I went to Evan Williams, the second-year safety, and I said, what do you think about that? He goes, dude's going to be a problem. All Jordan's got to do is complete a high percentage short pass to him, and he's going to be a problem when he gets in the backfield with the ball in his hands.
Oh, but that is just what Jordan Love needed, was where he could throw high percentage short passes. Seriously, that plays right to his strength. quickly then back to the Bucks for a second. Damian Lillard signed with his former team, Portland. What did he say about his time with Milwaukee?
The injuries, like Giannis getting hurt in the playoffs and his blood clot injury and then, torn Achilles. Shocked that he got waived, but relieved when he told his children, because, his wife divorced him when he got traded to Milwaukee. Oh. He told his kids, I'm back now in Portland, and they said, they cried with joy that they didn't have to fly to Milwaukee to visit their daddy.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, good. I'm glad to see an ending there. But, we appreciated his time here with the Bucks while it lasted. Mike Clemens with sports, so much to cover now, getting back into the real thick of coverage season here. Thanks for checking in with us.
Thank you, Pat. Have a good weekend.
All right. You as well. We will come back. We'll talk to Lisa Hale here, one of our wonderful hosts here at WISS in Oshkosh. I mean, seriously, donuts, coffee, the whole schmear. Okay, not a schmear, but I don't even know if there's a good bagel shop here. We'll talk to her about Oshkosh and wrap up our day here. For others, there'll be a local update, and I'll be talking to you then on Monday morning. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
You're listening to Civic Media. Find the latest news, information, and archives of all your favorite shows on the Civic Media website, civicmedia.us.
All right, here we go one more time. The keyword is brew, B-R-E-W. That is the keyword for the Friday, Free Ticket Friday. Win tickets to the Brewers-Cubs game next Wednesday afternoon. You've got yourself another 6 minutes or so to send that, text that in through the Civic Media app, and then there will be more keywords, more chances to win throughout the course of the day. Lisa Hale is here, who covers Civic Media news here in Oshkosh and in Green Bay as well, and has just been a wonderful host for us today. Thank you for that, Lisa.
Well, I used to, when we have people coming from the corporate world, shall we say, I want to be nice. I want to let them know that I love them. So I brought you some donuts and some coffee and stuff like that.
We did. There was coffee here. There was donuts. I mentioned the temperature in the room. It turns out, Parker, they can adjust the temperature here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can move the air conditioning up and down. So
yes,
I turned it up. Well, I turned the air conditioning up. I brought the temperature down.
Oh yeah, we had this debate because she has lived in northern states, but also southern states.
Right, and the terminology is different. You turn the air conditioning down to get it cold. To
get the temperature down.
No.
No.
You turn it down to turn it off. You turn it up to get more cold.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the South for you. It's nuts.
No, I think that makes sense.
Where all did you live?
I've lived in Louisiana and Mississippi and Texas, as well as Wisconsin and Michigan.
I know this is true because you said Louisiana.
Yes, I am definitely a Louisiana girl. I spent more time in Louisiana than I did in the other states.
Always in news, or what kind of fields have you worked in?
I have been in radio since I was 15 years old.
Oh.
I've been doing news since I was 19, or, after I got out of college, because I got my degree in journalism, and I've been doing everything from radio, TV, newspaper, magazines since then. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say when that was, because that would put a date on me,
we can't
and we're not
that.
going to do that.
Where'd you go to school?
Northeast Wisconsin. No, that's where we're at now.
That's right.
Northeast Louisiana University is what it was known as when I went. Okay. It is now University of Louisiana at Monroe.
Okay.
That's where I got my journalism degree.
ULM mentioned.
And then I went to Northwestern State University in Natchitoches for my business degree. I have a couple hundred degrees.
Where's Natchitoches?
That's in Louisiana too. It's in Cajun country of Louisiana.
Okay. What are you missing most here? Let's talk food for a second here.
That's exactly it. I don't miss anything about Louisiana except for the food. Mm-hmm. I would kill for a good old-fashioned crawfish boil. I really would, and I miss that food. There's so much flavor in the Creole and Cajun cooking.
Have you been any place at all in Wisconsin that has tried, that advertises itself as Cajun?
Yes, I have. There's a place up in Ashwaubenon. that does basically seafood boils, and they do a really good job. I've tried them. I like them. I can't remember the name of it right now. I want to say maybe Millions. I'm not sure. And then there's a place in Sheboygan that's called, I think, Bourbon Street. And they have an etouffee that I love. It is just spicy enough. So.
All right. So your quest is better than, say, when I leave Wisconsin and I try to get an old-fashioned someplace.
Oh, yeah. You're not going to find a good old-fashioned anywhere but
they
here.
make a Manhattan and think that
Yes.
they've done it right, that, it's just a different name, right? Like,
No.
No. It's not even close.
Yeah, and Bloody Marys, if you want a good Bloody Mary, get it in Wisconsin. Don't go down south for a Bloody Mary.
No, apparently we know things about alcoholic drinks here.
Yes.
It's been said.
Louisiana might know food, but Wisconsin knows alcohol.
Is Bourbon Street a destination for you and others from there, or is it now just strictly tourists?
It depends.
Okay.
If there is something actually happening, and
besides tourists falling down.
Besides going to Bourbon Street, like I lived in the northern portion of the state. So if there was a concert I wanted to go to in New Orleans, I would go and maybe after the concert walk Bourbon Street, but I wouldn't go to Bourbon Street just to go. And I would not go to Mardi Gras just to go unless it's one of the other Mardi Gras.
But I could see what you mean about if there was something specific there, because there are so many places to see music. It is just, and Nashville's the same way, and I'm sure there's other cities too, where it's just like, here's a place with live music, and then the next door there's live music, and the next door is live music, and you don't get that in almost any Wisconsin community, but in some of these places, that is what they're known for. I mean, the best blues band I ever saw was on Bourbon Street.
Oh, yeah.
Not jazz, it was blues.
Blues, definitely.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Just so good.
Everybody talks about jazz being Louisiana, but if you really want to know what the Louisiana music is, you got to go Zydeco, blues, and country. That's what Louisiana music really is.
Wow, okay. So, do you get back down there much at all?
The last time I was down, I hate to say this, but was when my stepdad passed away and I went for the funeral. Sure. I mean, it's 20 hours driving. Yeah. I hate flying. And so and it's hot. I much prefer to be here. Thank you very much.
Yeah. We have our hot days, but it's not like life down there.
It's so funny. Somebody was complaining about the heat the other day when it was so hot. And I was like, yeah, this is pretty much like, I guess, late March in Louisiana. And they were like, late March?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you ain't seen nothing yet. Well, we're very fortunate to have you up here, Lisa. Thank you so much for stopping in, for the hospitality, and for all you do here.
I try my best.
Oh, it's fantastic. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too.
All right. Hey, that's going to wrap things up for us here from Oshkosh here. Parker, again, thank you it's been quite a week, got to say, with the... seeing the Madison studio.
Yeah, it was nice to meet you. Nice to realize that you have legs.
We did finally meet. Yes. Yeah. It was like, wow, did you always wear glasses? I don't know. I can't say that I paid attention that much before.
I've never seen them.
Saw you. I've never seen you without. I don't know. Reminder, you can follow what we do over at upnorthnewswi.com. Sign up for the newsletters there, including my Sunday morning one. Sure to talk a bit more about Governor Evers' big decision and what it means for the 2026 elections. I'll see you back here Monday morning from Chippewa Falls, 6 a.m. from up north. Have a great weekend. See you then.
The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.